Hello and welcome to the Phoenix Wisdom Podcast. I am your host, Janet Sandberg, and we are joined today by Liz Buggy, all the way from Australia. Very excited to talk to her and hear her story. Liz, welcome.
Thanks for having me on your show. My name's Liz. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I've had like a lot of trauma in the past as I was younger and growing up, which led to suicidal ideations. And I've overcome a lot of that. And I've just recently graduated as a life coach with the Beautiful You Coaching Academy here in Melbourne.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I love seeing the progression, that I feel like those of us who have been through the tough stuff, we kind of go one of two ways. It either makes us miserable and hardened, or we want to help other people who are going through the same stuff. So we end up becoming healers and coaches and therapists and, people who are out there helping others. So well done.
Thank you.
Why don't we dive into your story and tell us what was going on when you were thinking about ending your life?
The first time I would have been around the age of 14. I was on a school camp and I was sitting in a tent with like a knife to my wrist.
Oh.
One of my so-called friends at the time had walked into the tent, then sort of went back out, got one of the teachers who just came in, sat with me and chatted to me. A lot of that stemmed from like the childhood, like my childhood traumas and being verbally abused, put down, not feeling good enough, worthy. So that was pretty much that sort of time frame. I've had other instances where I sort of wanted to take my life as well. Back around 2000 to 2003 was another time. Again, that involved a knife, but that time to the throat.
Oh.
And like after it took a lot of effort to actually just drop the knife, and then I ran out of the unit, raced up, ran all the way up to the gap at Watson's Bay. So I was living in Bondi Junction at the time. Then I've just sat up there for a while, and then I gradually made my way home, and then I went and saw a doctor that afternoon. And he said the only reason he wasn't going to hospitalise me was the fact that I was sitting in his office for the first time asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a lot of stuff sort of going on in like the personal life. Again, the feelings of not being good enough, worthy, all that sort of negative self-talk that always happens, like when you're feeling bad about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was suspended from work more recently, that was another time when I wanted to end it all, because I thought, well, if people think so little of me, what's the point?
Right. Yeah. Which obviously is untrue, but it's all encompassing at the time, right? It's only one person or a couple of people at work, but it seems that way for sure.
Yeah, like when you're in that negative headspace, it doesn't matter sort of what the actual truth is. What you believe is what becomes true for you.
Exactly. And then it just makes it harder to overcome each successive time. But
then straight after I had that thought of, I may as well just end it, because if people think so little of me, what's the point? I had that thought come through my mind of, that's probably what they actually want, so stuff them.
I like that. You just need that little bit of rebel in yourself.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
and that's sort of what gets most people through. Like when they are sort of down and feeling out, it's that little bit of rebel in them that goes, yeah, let's just piss everyone off and do what feels good for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wouldn't they love it if they succeeded at making me this miserable, and then you're like, no, I'm going to spite them and stay here and get really successful and do really well and feel really good despite everything that they've done to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a few people and that's been like their big motivator in life, like especially when they were young and had a parent who was just, abusive or mean or just, kind of told them that they were not worthy and not good enough all the time as a kid. Then that was their motivation as they grew up to be like, screw you, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to, get a great job and go to school and have a family and just do all the things. And,
Yeah.
and I'll show you, and I mean, it does work. It does work. It might not be the best and healthiest motivation, but it does work.
Sometimes that's all you need is that little tiny bit of spark of emotion to get you through.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so after when you were 14 and you not quite attempted to end your life, did you get any help then? Like obviously the teachers knew and they talked to you. Was there any follow-up or counseling or?
Yeah, like I've been through counselling on and off over the years, but I've had several bad experiences, like with counsellors, where they were either not sort of like really trauma informed. They were just going by like textbooks what they had learned and they were studying. They didn't adapt like any of the therapies really to my situation.
Hmm.
It's either that or they were more messed up than what I was.
Oh no.
Right. And like I had one counsellor that had personal problems going on, and that sort of affected the way that they were showing up in counselling me. And then also I had seen a psychiatrist at one point, and he charged me $190, telling me it was all in my head, that all I needed was a job where I got respected.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
Okay. Thanks.
as you can see, there has been like issues as far as the counselling and psychotherapy side of things.
Yeah.
But like I'm doing discount like therapy. It is worthwhile when it's needed. In 2023, I suffered 2022, 2023, I suffered 2 episodes of burnout. And then after that, like I knew something had to give and change. So that's what led me into coaching. Like I found a life coach who actually taught me the tools that I needed to improve my life. And I grew from that. And that's sort of what led me back to a dream when I was like a teenager of being a life coach myself. And that's what led me to the Beautiful You Academy. And yeah,
Amazing.
history.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really important. Like therapy and coaching are kind of two sides of the same coin. Like therapy, you talk about things, you explore things, you learn how your brain works with a good therapist. Anyway, and you learn how your brain works and how to, you know, make your brain work better, sort of in a nutshell. But then therapists can't really tell you what to do. That's not in their scope of practice. They're supposed to like let you come up with the ideas yourself. Whereas like life coaching is a little more practical and hands-on, where you're like, here's some great tools. Do this. And so the two of them, like if you can get a great therapist and a great life coach, like I feel like you can sort of fast track your way. And just, whatever else you want to do along with, different types of healing and whatever, whether it's like traditional meds or it's, Reiki and energy healing or, whatever works for you.
Yeah, like with life coaching, it's more they focus on your goals and your dreams and stuff like that. And they help you sort of navigate and offer like tools to help you get to that goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I want this, but if you can't see how to get there because it seems so far away, that's they will help you figure out the steps between here and there, and hold your hand while you take them too.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of guidance. I feel like sometimes, again, depends on the therapist. They're like, you don't get as much of the hand holding, maybe. I guess it depends what kind of therapy. There are lots of different types of therapists, so I shouldn't nutshell them like that. Paint them all with the same brush because there are so many different people. But it's important to shop around too, like with life coaching or healers, doctors, the same. Like if you go to a doctor you don't like, you're not going to keep going to them.
Exactly.
But for some reason, people think if they go to a therapist, they're like, oh, I have to keep going. It's like, no, like you're not going to be friends with everybody you meet. So you're not necessarily going to mesh with every professional you meet either.
Right. But it is important to have that connection and that you feel safe in that environment to open up.
Yeah. Yeah. So who are you helping in your practice?
I've only just really started to get into it because I graduated in October last year, and because my 2024 was quite challenging with losing my job and stuff like that, I'm taking my time actually building my business.
Amazing.
So that I can build the business in alignment with what feels true for me.
Mm-hmm. And you don't go back into burnout?
Exactly. Because burnout's not fun.
No, it's not. And yeah, it's being self-employed, being an entrepreneur, starting your own practice. That is, at least you have the tools now to see it, hopefully, before it comes on. But yeah, it is no easy task.
No, my biggest fallback before was like I used to just push through things without actually dealing with the issue. And that's what led to the initial burnout. And then I just sort of pushed through that, continued to
push through the burnout.
for like the people that I was supporting. And then like I burnt out a second time. And that was when I said, look, no more. I've got to put myself first and look after number one in order to be able to help others.
Exactly. Yes. And I did that to myself too. Like I'd burn out and then I'd take a bit of time off and then be right back to it doing exactly the same things all over again. And then I burn out again. And I'm like, weird. And then take a bit of time off and then go back to it. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you not learn? Yeah. So what are your best anti-burnout tips?
I would have to say acknowledge that you are struggling. Seek help like as soon as you can. Try to de-stress, do something that makes you feel good, whether it's going to a quiet place, your favorite beach, whatever, and just chilling, listening, vibing with nature. They're sort of the main ones. But most importantly, if you need, seek that professional help to help you through.
Mm-hmm. So how does somebody know that they're burnt out?
Okay. This can be very tricky for a lot of people because it varies to the extent that they will feel burnt out. In my case, like I was constantly tired, I wasn't sleeping properly. I was physically and emotionally exhausted. I was struggling to regulate my mood. So like I found that I was getting agitated quite quickly with no apparent reason. As I said, it varies between person to person, but they were the main sort of areas that like I saw. Like once I finally admitted that I was burning out, because like most people, you don't want to admit when you're struggling.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that is the key, no matter how we're struggling, if it's burnout or depression or anxiety or anything else sort of mental health related, those are the hardest ones.
Yeah, especially with the stigmas that are out there. Like even though they're trying to sort of change those stigmas, unfortunately, in a lot of places, they still very much exist.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can whatever, you break your leg, you're like, I need a few days off. They're like, sure, no problem. You're like, I'm feeling burnt out. Well, come to work anyways, You can't really prove it. So,
No, it's very hard to sort of prove like stress, burnout, any sort of illness related to mental health.
yeah.
Whereas if it's a physical injury or illness, disease, whatever, then like they've got that backing of, yep, there's your proof that that exists.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's part of the whole stigma and the whole, history of mental health not being accepted because it's invisible.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, it can affect you physically and it can also morph into physical symptoms.
Yeah.
But in general, it's a little more invisible and harder to prove. So people are just like, that's not really happening, you know?
Yeah, I think also a large part of it comes down to society and the way mental health is portrayed. Like even in movies and stuff like that, it always gives off that impression that people with mental health can't have a life, can't hold down an employment and whatever else. And I think
Yeah.
that has impacted the way others view mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. And it's, I've seen this sort of the same thing, but a little bit differently in that, my friend's mom, has dementia and refuses to admit that she has dementia, which sometimes goes along with it. There's a lot of denial there, but she always responds with, I'm not crazy. And it's like, no, you have a physical disease. Like dementia isn't even mental health, and people still, it is a physical,
Yeah.
degenerative. That's the word I'm thinking of. Degenerative disease, that can be proven, and people still, because it's with your mind, people are still like, no. And we used to call people with dementia, we used to call them senile, and and it's like, no, they just have a disease. It's the same as having diabetes or anything else, but it has that same stigma too.
Yes.
So that's why we're talking about these things. What advice would you give to somebody who is, in that darkness and despair and feeling like they're unworthy and not good enough?
Like I tell them that you're not alone. That there are others experiencing hard times. Like I would strongly encourage them to seek help. Even if it's just talking to a friend that they trust.
Yeah.
Or another person that they trust. If not, if they don't feel comfortable talking to that, there are like crisis hotlines that they can call. Like here in Australia, there's like Lifeline. I'm sure around the world there's like
Yeah.
services like that as well.
Yeah. In the US, we have 988. I think it's in Canada now too. So,
yeah. Like you can always talk to someone anonymously through them.
yeah.
Like there's so many inspirational quotes as well that can remind you that, like, even though you're in a dark period, like there is hope even when your brain tells you there isn't. By John Green, that's like quite an impactful one.
Yeah.
Even moments, even in the darkest moments, light exists if you have faith to see it. By Dean Koontz. And I'd be telling them that they're stronger than they realize. Like everyone has that capability of resilience, and they have the choice to empower their own lives. So pretty much just have faith, stay strong, seek help.
Yeah. Awesome.
It is possible to come out the other side.
It is. It is. And sometimes we just need a little support to help us get through. We are not meant to do life alone. And I think that's when it gets darkest and heaviest, is when we're keeping all of that stuff to ourselves and thinking that we can just get through it by ourselves. Share it with somebody.
Yeah. And there's also like a quote by Juliette Lewis. The bravest thing I ever did was continuing my life when I wanted to die.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's impactful. And another thing I would say to someone who has experienced dark times, it has to be darkness for there to be light.
Yes.
And just embrace the journey, because it is part of you, but it's also the part that makes you stronger.
Yes. I love that. Thank you. And thank you, Liz, for being here today and sharing your story with us and helping others and continuing to do your work in the world. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Remember that you are loved, you are worthy, you are valuable, you are meant for more, and that it really does get better. If you are in crisis, there are numbers that you can call or text to get the help that you need. That information for Canada and the US is in the description below each episode. If you are in immediate crisis, please call 911. We love you, and I hope you'll listen again.